Hello, everybody. This is Gerald Salenti, and it's Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. And once again, we're very, very honored and privileged to have with us a man of men, someone who cares about this country in a way that's forgotten by the politicians and the media, Judge Andrew Napolitano. When it comes to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, two things that they've ripped up and thrown away, they don't talk about it anymore. There's nobody that knows more about it than the judge. Judge, thanks so much for being here. And you have an article coming out tomorrow. And again, everybody, if you want to know what's going on in the world in a whole different way, you got to go to Judging Freedom. The people that the judge has on there, you don't see hardly anywhere else. And they're real pros in what they're talking about. People that have been in the system, know the system, and care about the country in a way that very few people do. So go to Judging Freedom, and you have a new article coming out tomorrow, Judge. The feds, I love this, and their own bribery. Normally, when the government asks a judge to dismiss criminal charges against a defendant, the judge will happily do so. This does not occur frequently, but occasionally. The government will reevaluate the strength of its own case and conclude it cannot prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. What happens when the government believes it can meet that standard, but for reasons having nothing to do with the strength of its case, it seeks a dismissal? Can the Department of Justice legally, and can its lawyers ethically hold the prosecution of the mayor of New York City in abeyance, almost as a sword of Damocles, so to coerce his cooperation with federal immigration officials? Stated differently, can the Department of Justice, which sought to obtain an indictment of Mayor Eric Adams for bribery, use its own bribery in order to influence the mayor's judgment on policy decisions?
That's the issue that's before a federal judge as we speak, Gerald. Mayor Adams denies the bribery. The government says the case against him is overwhelming. The investigation began under the first Trump administration when Eric Adams was the president of the borough of Brooklyn. The allegations are pretty serious, and one of his co-defendants has pleaded guilty and agreed to testify against him. His lawyers went to the federal prosecutor in Lower Manhattan, appointed by Donald Trump in an interim basis, and said, we got a deal for you. You want the city of New York with its massive assets and governmental structure, NYPD, Department of Corrections, Health and Hospitals, Social Services, homeless people, everything. You want us to cooperate with ICE, drop the charges against the mayor. The lawyers were outraged and said that's illegal and unethical. Get out of here. The mayor's lawyers went to senior Justice Department officials in D.C. who said, not a bad idea. And then the senior justice officials in D.C. ordered the prosecutors in Manhattan to ask a federal judge to dismiss the case without prejudice, a fancy phrase for don't throw it out, just put it on the shelf so that we can take it off the shelf in case the mayor doesn't do what we want him to do. 7 of those lawyers resigned rather than do that because they all know it's unethical and potentially criminal. Eventually, 3 lawyers in D.C. signed the application before the federal judge. As we speak, they're all in federal court in Lower Manhattan, and I suspect what's going to happen to them is something lawyers hate, Gerald. They're going to be put under oath and forced to testify about what they knew and when they knew it. Because such a quid pro quo, you do what the president wants you to do with respect to immigration, and we won't prosecute you even though we have a strong case, would itself be criminal.
as I was saying in the introduction, when it comes to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, legality, there's hardly anybody out there that knows it like the judge does. And good for those people that had the courage to quit rather than lie. And another thing, just to make this really
DOJ has
clear,
blasted this this chief prosecutor Danielle Sassoon as being out of step with the times. A fancy phrase for she's a left-wing creep. A left-wing creep. She clerked for Justice Antonin Scalia. She's a member of the Federalist Society and speaks for them all over the country. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. She's also one of the best courtroom lawyers that the feds have, and now she's gone because she refused to participate in this scam. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. My apologies.
No. Again, it's just disgusting what's going on. And then let's put this into a clear perspective.
Sure.
Look at this little piece of scum crap that's the mayor of New York City. Could you get another low-life piece of garbage? Oh, yeah, I forgot. Andy Cuomo, the little clown boy, was governor of New York, a daddy's boy. I'm renaming the Tappan Zee Bridge after my daddy. Oh, you forgot to put Mario M. Cuomo. Take down those signs. You got to put them back up and put an M in there. Yeah, that little piece of scum is now running for mayor in New York City. Well, look at the little shit show we got in front of our eyes.
It's very interesting you should say that, because Eric Adams, who is, of course, a Democrat, has intimated he might join the Republican Party because he fears that he would lose in a Democratic primary against Andrew Cuomo. Now, while all this is happening, the governor of New York, another terrible, terrible person in office, nevertheless, is deciding whether or not to remove Eric Adams from office, because under the New York State Constitution and under the New York City Charter, the governor can remove any elected official if she believes that person is not capable of performing the duties required by law. And if she does so, he'll be gone the minute she signs the paper for 30 days. Jumaane Williams, who isn't even a Democrat, he's a member of, are you ready for this? The Working Families Party. This is the hard left of the most left, will become the acting mayor. If they think that he's going to cooperate with ICE, they have another thing coming. And then during that 30-day time period, you ready for this? The governor must hold a hearing at which she is both judge and prosecutor and interrogate the mayor publicly. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. All this is brewing as we speak.
And what it symbolizes, and that's why I wanted to talk about this, is that how low this country's sunk. And you know what I'm really disgusted with? Hey, I'm the president of the United States. I pardon this guy, that guy, this woman, that person. I can pardon anybody that I want for the crimes that they committed. But you're just a little plantation worker of Slavelandia. You don't get pardoned for anything. You get prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But for the rest of my buddies, they get a free ride. What kind of country is this disgusting turning into?
You know, the other issue is you talk about Andrew Cuomo and Eric Adams, the Democratic primary. This is what happens with one-party rule, is inherent corruption. Not necessarily corruption of people putting money in your pocket, although Eric Adams has been indicted for that. He's denied it vehemently, but that's the charge. It is corrupt when one party dominates everything. For example, these federal crimes are also state crimes. Will Alvin Bragg, the DA in New York, the same one that prosecuted Donald Trump, now prosecute the mayor? Well, Alvin Bragg is up for re-election in 2026, and he appeals to the same Democratic base that Mayor Adams and former Governor Cuomo would appeal to. Would that influence his decision on whether or not to prosecute the mayor? I mean, this is such an incestuous system that the people of New York have. You don't vote in New York City. I don't vote in New York City. This system has been in place for 100 years. It does not serve people well, Gerald.
No. Again, that guy Bragg, what a jerk. What a clown. It's a freak show in front of everybody's eyes. Just look at these people. And it's not only New York, it's everywhere. The politicians, it's an example of how disgusting the political system in this country has declined. By the way, Judge, I began my career working on political campaigns.
Right. You were once a part of this system, although where you were, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a two-party system.
But the point being, never in my life have there been a better time for a new third party than now.
Yes.
The people are disgusted with the Democrats. They got nobody. They got nobody there. There's nobody that they could put out to run for office. It's a freak show. And the same thing on the Republican side. The only thing that's making the Republican side look good is Trump.
Correct. All this waste and fraud and abuse that Musk is finding, Republicans voted for all of this as well. The budget that he's eviscerating is Mike Johnson's budget, the Republican Speaker of the House.
Oh, so by the way, talking about
Musk, it's not just the Democrats. It's the whole system that stinks. And when Musk goes after the Defense Department and he runs into a buzzsaw called the Military Industrial Congressional Complex, and he sees all of the president's buddies in there, the billionaire arms manufacturers and the political hacks who enable them.
And Judge, that's the cover of this week's magazine. Here it is.
There you go.
Money is power. We run the world. Shut up and do what you're told.
Wow. Is that Elon Musk? We know the salute he's giving, sitting on a chair made of cash. Very clever, my dear friend. Very clever.
Yeah, I came up with that one. And matter of fact, I work with the artist. I never worked harder. I used to give the artist the freedom. But I really wanted this thing detailed out. I'm the richest man in the world. You listen to what I have to say. You shut your damn mouth if you're not a billionaire. You have no right to say anything as a human being. Only the billionaires could speak. And again, yeah, I love what they're doing, getting rid of the government, all this waste and on and on. But how about all the money that he's making from the government?
Well, that's the potential conflict. I mean, he has I think it's $200 billion series of contracts with the government.
Yeah.
Are those going to be investigated? Of course not.
Imagine $200 billion with the government. No, $200 billion stealing our taxpayer money. Judge, this article, by the way, you go on with it, and it's really very important. You go with about the key statement here. As we all see, as we have all seen, the use of law enforcement for political purposes often produces political results.
I mean, jurors are not dumb. If they believe that the government is operating just on the basis of its political preferences, their verdicts will reflect their own political preferences rather than right and wrong, guilt and innocence, proof or not proof. That's a very, very dangerous state of affairs that we're in. And I'm sorry to say, this is the Trump DOJ. I don't know if the Attorney General herself is involved, but this is the Trump DOJ that is doing this. Now, look, Trump himself could get involved and he could pardon the mayor. That would be a political earthquake here in New York, but it would end all this stuff. It would free him up to make decisions however he wants. I'm sure he'd be very grateful to the president and would probably do whatever the president wanted.
Judge, as a trend forecaster, we're political atheists. We look at things the way they are, not the way we want them to be. We don't take a side on things. And on the positive side of Trump, you know, I believe that if Trump was president when the Ukraine war broke out on February 24th, 2022, it would have been long over by now because we've not have pumped in almost $300 billion.
There would never have been a war. Joe Biden dispatched Boris Johnson, then the Prime Minister of Great Britain, to tell Zelensky to reject a 126-page treaty that his people and the President Putin's people had negotiated, every page of which was initialed by both sides. There wouldn't have been a shot fired if Donald Trump has been president. In my view, that is not his idle boasting. That is an accurate statement of probability.
Yep. So I support him very much on that. But on the other side, his support for the Israeli genocide is disgusting.
It's just as bad, maybe worse than Joe Biden. Last week, we sent 1,800 Moabs. That's the mother of all bombs. It is so large and so destructive. The Israelis do not even have a plane big enough and strong enough to carry it up in the air. That means an American plane with American pilots will have to drop this bomb on innocent civilians in Ukraine, in Gaza, in Syria, in Lebanon, in the West Bank, wherever Netanyahu wants people killed. Donald Trump will kill them.
I want to show you the propaganda of how they lie about, or not lie, but the propaganda and what they sell to the people. And of course, that's why you subscribe to the Trends Journal. We don't put out propaganda. This is from yesterday's Wall Street Journal. Article over here. You ready? Released Gaza hostages face long, wrenching recoveries. Oh, that's terrible what they did. I'm totally opposed to what Hamas did, taking hostages. How about about 12,000 Palestinians that they arrested, threw them in these rotten jails, beating them, raping them? That Palestinians don't, they're not hostages, they're prisoners. I forgot.
Right. How dare you forget to use the words that the mainstream media wants us to use? It's reprehensible what the Wall Street Journal wrote. If they're concerned that the hostages didn't have enough food and medicine, look to who and what stopped the transportation of food and medicine into Gaza, the Israeli military. So don't blame it on Hamas. Wall Street Journal.
And how about writing about the suffering from the Palestinians with how they've been tortured in these prisons? How about writing about that?
Many of them, when they were released, you didn't see this on television because the Israelis wouldn't allow the media there, were carried out on stretchers. That's how badly they were treated in the Israeli jails.
And here's an article from yesterday's, like they call it the paper record, the New York Times. I call it the toilet paper record. In West Bank, Israel's tactics cause exodus. Israel's tactics cause exodus. You ready? A week-long Israeli military operation across the West Bank. Like long glasses on here. Across the West Bank cities has displaced, you ready? Roughly 40,000 Palestinians from their homes. They threw out 40,000 Palestinians from their homes in the West Bank. Displaced them? What kind of language are you talking about?
They stole the property. And Donald Trump has declared he doesn't have the authority to do this. Of course, he doesn't have the authority to do a lot of what he does. He's declared the West Bank part of Israel. That, of course, violates international law, violates history, violates numerous UN resolutions, violates a treaty to which the United States is party. It's absurd. but he seems to be giving, the word is that he can't stand Netanyahu. I don't know. And maybe that's just personal. But he seems to be giving Netanyahu everything he wants, even more than what Biden wants. According to Matt Ho, who appears on my show on Tuesdays, since Trump became president, every 15 hours, a huge cargo plane leaves the U.S., usually New Jersey, and flies to Tel Aviv. Every 15 hours. It's billions and billions in destructive equipment to help Netanyahu kill innocents and eradicate an ethnic group. And Donald Trump is as much a part of that as Joe Biden.
Yep. Again, could you imagine? 40,000 people right from their homes? Get out of your house. Get out of your homes. We're taking it over. Get out. Get out of here. Get out of here. Where's the outrage? Where's the outrage? Could you imagine if these were 40,000 Palestinians, if there were 40,000 Jewish people that the Arabs are throwing out of their homes?
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God, how terrible. The hypocrisy of this.
Well, they called Biden Genocide Joe. I don't know what they're going to call Trump. So far, he's Teflon with respect to the Israelis, but I don't know how much longer that will last.
I got to tell you, Judge, what is he's in now? What almost a month? Trump. This is going to be the wildest ride.
Yeah, it
into
is.
the future that I think we've ever going to see in modern history.
I think you're right. I don't know how much longer the Republicans in the Congress will be supine and just look the other way as he steals power from the Congress. I mean, today he declared himself the head of the SEC. Well, he's not the head of the SEC. There's a valid chair appointed by Joe Biden and confirmed by the Senate, who under the law can only be fired for misconduct in office, not because the president wants his job.
No, this is going to be a wild two of our top trends this year is the Trump card, and I never did this one before, the wild card.
And
What's
the wild card?
Anything, it's the Joker's wild. Anything can happen. I've never seen more uncertainty about volatile situations developing than now. And you look at what's going on with gold prices. I wouldn't have thought they've gone up this as fast as they have. And it's the reason they're going up so much, as we're speaking now, what it's about $2,940 an ounce.
Wow.
Up almost 12% this year because of the global uncertainty of what's going on economically and geopolitically under the Trump administration.
Right.
So this is a time, again, everybody stay tuned to Judging Freedom. He has great people on there. He's doing everything he can in the true American spirit to reignite what this country was supposed to be founded upon by our founding fathers and has been lost now. As I said, Judge, never before.
Two of your biggest admirers are on today, Phil Giraldi and Colonel Douglas McGregor.
Thank you. Great. Oh, they're great. So, Judge, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for doing this today. And everybody, again, go to Judging Freedom, because what you're hearing from these people, you're not going to hear anywhere else. Thanks a lot, Judge.
Thank you, Gerald. All the best, my friend.